In this episode, we're going to continue looking at the horror film and the horror genre, but we're going to step away from the monster figure in its more obvious form and look at how religion is portrayed as kind of monstrosity in Revenge of the Sith. The main person, of course, is Sidious. He looks like a priest. He has a religion, right? The Sith religion. And he's trying to fight the Jedi who have their own religion. But I want to go a little bit different than other people, where people have sort of simplistically implied that Lucas is just equating religion with evil, right? That the dogmatisms of the Jedi and the Sith are equivalent, so we need to avoid religion altogether. I don't think that's the message. It's true that, for the most part, the religious figure in most of horror and/or fantasy, really, is almost extremely negative. Whether we look at the work of George R. R. Martin, Joss Whedon, and others, the religious figure is almost always evil, right? They're a hypocrite, they're coercive, and sometimes the identities are collapsed, right? For instance, the Master in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, in one episode, is literally a priest. He's passing himself off as a priest, and he's spreading vampirism under that guise. And a priest is an actual villain in one season of Buffy. So we get the basic gist with most of horror, right? When religion shows up, it's almost always on the side of evil. It's those who reject religion who are on the side of good, right? Religion in politics and horror is almost always linked to coercion and dictatorship. But I think what people miss is that in Star Wars, this is a little bit more complex, because Sidious is not completely lying when he says that the dark side has a form of knowledge. It's not just power. He is offering power to Darth Vader, but he's also offering knowledge. That the Sith religion does have a form of knowledge that the Jedi cannot give him. He's going to get power from it, but he's also going to get a form of instruction that the Jedi cannot match. And so we see a juxtaposition between the way the Jedi sort of kneel towards authority and the way the Sith do. And of course we should see it as mainly negative, right? That the Jedi are clearly less abusive. But at the level of dogmatism, I don't think Lucas is saying they were better. They are better in certain ways, of course. They're not the Sith, they're not as extreme. But they do commit the same problems of dogmatism and of self-interest, of just wanting power for themselves. They may have a greater allegiance to democracy, but they're not really committed to democracy at all. And in the early parts of the prequels, we can see that the religious and political figures are almost identical. Like Valorum looks like a priest. So it's not as simple as people think that maybe Lucas is just attacking organized religion, right? That's sort of the tact with most fantasy writers. They're attacking organized religion, but religion as a mythology, they have no issue with, right? Religion is fine unto itself, but when it's being used by elites, it's going to be abusive. I don't think that's Lucas's message. I do think he is arguing that the real problem here is dogmatism. Religion itself is fine, but it's when it becomes dogmatic, when it has a monopoly. It doesn't allow for discussion, it doesn't allow for innovation or growth. So in the mythology of Star Wars with Revenge of the Sith, Sidious is kind of an antichrist figure, right? He's sort of outwardly satanic, right? He dresses in satanic clothing. He has the mark of red. There's even some sly jokes, right? When he orders Order 66, I think people miss the obvious joke that Lucas is making, because probably some people don't know the Bible as well as he does. Order 66 is only 1 6 short of 666, which is the mark of the beast, right? Or the mark of the Antichrist and or the devil in the Bible. So, yeah, there's a lot of sly jokes, too, of how Sidious... Because, again, Christian religion does not exist in Star Wars, but it's slipped in there, sometimes not well, right? I mean, Anakin calls Padme an angel in Phantom Menace, and that does not make any sense. In their world, there is no such thing as Christianity, so you wouldn't have the concept of angels as we understand them. So it's not completely coherent. I'm not trying to say that Lucas is as firm a writer as Whedon and or Martin. Clearly their mythologies, I think, are more well thought out. But it's not as incoherent as people think. There is a consistency with what Lucas is doing, and if you look at something like Return of the Jedi, Luke, at the beginning, does actually mirror Sidious. He actually literally looks like this kind of dark priest. And it seems like he's also going to follow this path of the Antichrist, of being corrupted by power. But he manages to save himself at the end because he doesn't want to become like Darth Vader, this apprentice to this evil religion. And essentially a slave, right? Because Vader seems to have a lot of power, but he's essentially just the enforcer and or dog of the Emperor. He doesn't really have any power onto himself. He's very codependent on Sidious. So again, it's a very sly commentary on the evils of dogmatic religion as opposed to just religion per se, and how the priest figure in horror, and again, Lucas is not opposing that. The priest figure often is in horror correctly evil, right? They're carrying the seeds of something destructive and sinister within them. But we have to be careful of equating the quote, sinister Antichrist and or priest figure with monstrosity itself. So it's dogmatism in religion that needs to be fought, not necessarily religion onto itself. Alright, hopefully you enjoyed this commentary. If you like the content, please hit the like button and or subscribe. Please consider supporting the work on Patreon. Please comment below if you can. Thank you for listening.